took out his kirpan, he beheaded him and took his cycle and walked away. On the roof with those petrol bombs, we were trained. We will throw from outside if people try to attack the house. Means 60 to 70% people slain, bleeding. बहता खून मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता था. मैंने बहुत देख लिया था.
Namaste everyone, this is Avanti and I'm here today with my grandfather. आपका नाम क्या है?
मेरा नाम सुभाष गोस्वामी.
Dr. Subhash Goswami.
Of course.
So, how old are you, Nanu?
I have just crossed 86.
How does it feel?
It feels that I am growing.
So, that means you were born in which year?
1938, January 2nd.
1938. तो उसका मतलब है that you have lived through the partition.
I have lived through the partition and end part of the World War II.
Which I can't even imagine what that was like. तो आप कितने साल के थे when the partition happened?
Now, question is, there are two parts to the partition.
Yes.
Number one, when partition was being thought of, or when partition was brewing up between the various leaders as they wanted, while it was only one India at that time.
Yes.
But that was happening in 1946.
Yes.
And 1946 onwards.
Yeah.
This partition fever was known to most of the population on either side.
और उस समय you used to live in?
I was living in a town called Sargodha.
Sargodha.
In Pakistan now.
Yeah.
In that town, it was also decided that whether we want to go to the other side or remain here. Now that big decision was being taken by the so-called elders and the leaders of the place.
Yeah.
Which included, of course, my grandfather also. So the eventual decision was that if it is Pakistan and Hindustan based on religion,
Yeah.
we have to go to Hindustan. Now that is the big decision the family took.
That they took.
Okay.
And उस समय का, before we get into the decision and उसके factors, can you explain, मतलब सरगोदा कैसा था, पंजाब कैसा था, how were the conditions before this partition?
Before 1946,
Yes.
there was nothing like a conflict between one or the other religion. The conflict was between the invaders, that is the Britishers,
Yeah.
and the Indians.
Yeah. जब आप school में थे, for example, primary school में, you had schools.
No, I had schooling roughly up to class 5.
हाँ. और तभी आप, मतलब it was all religions, all backgrounds.
Oh yes. The school that I was studying was called Sanatan Dharma School. Though it is called Sanatan Dharma School, it was never considered that it will be only for Hindus or only for Sikh or so. The people in the area will be in that school, and we were all from different religions. There was no conflict there. And means at that time there were two types of schools. The Khalsa school,
Okay.
and the other was Sanatan Dharma school.
Okay.
But both places, the idea was education was there, and education also was of a nature which was as per the British standards. It means that as the education was happening in British schools.
हाँ जी. So वो school का, I guess, environment था pre the partition decision. Was there ever a moment जब वो partition का decision लिया हुआ था, where you felt something changed?
Yes. When the decision finally was taken, two-nation theory.
Yeah.
The school also started getting the information and also means this thing. And as it was trickling down that the area which is the Western Punjab is going towards Pakistan, then those people thought they are now becoming the masters, and they tried to do some disturbances.
Okay.
Not only in school, we as children were secondarily affected, but it was also in the other areas of the town. People living in the area started doing the night guards around, as more people from the other areas was trying to come and do what was unfair. Because first the decision was not totally taken. Secondly, they thought now this is decided and these people should be either eliminated or thrown away.
That must have been hard to deal with.
It was hard because for us who were not yet decided in terms of कि हम जाएंगे या नहीं जाएंगे. My own family, I would say, because I was with grandparents, but my parents were already in Amritsar.
वो कभी शिफ्ट हुए?
35 or before that even. Because he was a graduate in medicine from Amritsar. He wanted to do a family practice and he built up a huge nursing home. And that was in Cheharta, which is roughly about 8 to 10 miles from the present India-Pakistan border at Wagah or Atari.
I remember जब हम कई साल पहले we'd gone to Amritsar together and seen the Wagah border, आपने कहा था कि आप वहाँ पे साइकिल करते थे.
हम जब border establish हो गया, and to see the flag hoisting at sunset and sunrise. It was just the two sides. The flag will come down or go up simultaneously.
Yeah.
And the neutral zone in between the two gates was only a simple thing. And then it was camaraderie between the two armies. As spectators, we used to cycle down there, see that and come back.
Your parents were in Chhata, Amritsar ki jagah mein. You were in Sargodha with your grandparents. When the two-state decision was taken and you were going to move, what was that like? How was the preparation made?
Nothing, because what was left was me and my Naniji who had adopted me. There was a third person who was my attendant, or you can say person taking care of me as a child. We three were the only one in that Haveli.
और आपके सब भाई बहनों कहाँ पर थे?
वो सब Cheharta में थे.
But you were the only one in this Haveli with Jakhu and your Nanima. Do you remember what was the date? Was it August 14th that you left?
No, I can't say which date we moved.
Okay.
Because as it started, before 15th August, the movement started. When things were written up. These will be the areas under Pakistan rule or Hindustan rule.
Yeah.
At that time in the early stages, army was taking the people from one side to across the border to the other side under the guard of the army in army trucks. So we traveled in the army truck from Sargodha to Cheharta.
Was the journey smooth? Were you stopped along the way?
No, we were not stopped because in the initial stages, the army was the same, still under British. But at the same time, though it was supposed to be this army part is for Pakistan, this army part is for the India, according to the, of course, as the religious people accepted. At that time, this was one army getting divided into two. So the army was using its own discipline to let things happen. But on the way, there would be conflicts, there would be all other things which one could witness. Because we went through Lahore, from Sargodha to Lahore to Amritsar. But that was the normal route for most of the people coming.
Yeah.
Few others went, smaller routes also. But in that route, as it was coming, lots of those were being attacked, whether in private cars, whether in the trains.
Attacked how and in what nature?
Now, I cannot say so much on the way because we were not getting out of the convoy of the army. But as I saw, that was the most horrible experience of us. We used to be like volunteers, and the help was given the Gurudwara called Cheharta. And all the local people around from Cheharta who will come to the railway station as the train comes. So we used to take food, water, etc. to help people in there. You enter a compartment, you will see 60 to 70% people slain, bleeding, or this. Maybe a family is totally gone or somebody is saved and the other people in the family are not there. I would say it was partition, and after partition, there was an exodus.
Okay.
That exodus was the most painful thing that happened. Our nursing home, that is my father's nursing home,
Yeah.
at Chiata, was the great first, more than the first aid help, because all those surgeries and other things, because we had the nurses, the dispenser, and all the facility possible for the operation theatre.
Yeah.
Thereafter, they were moved on to the camps in Amritsar. Eventually, the bigger camps were in Delhi. The destination used to be Kingsway camp. But those who had some relatives on this side, they were looking for if they can reach those places. And then government did try to help them on railways, because there was no other big transportation, mass transportation. And worst atrocities were also, as usual, the weaker section, like the female. So whatever it was happening, people were trying to save them, and yet people were misbehaving. Somebody trying to lock his door so that when they come back, they'll collect their things. As he is bending down, somebody will cut his neck. This is what happened, and we have seen it.
How was it to see that as a kid?
Well, since it was happening so much, one had become so immune. And further on, when we came to Chiata and saw that thing happening, in the trains, what was the condition? It was at that time animalistic. To dispose of those bodies, this Gurudwara people plus all the volunteers who were there of Chiata, huge pits were made, fire was on, and the three priests were standing on the side, Sardarji, Hindu or a Muslim. That priest would say their usual prayer, and down goes the body. That was the cremation.
The cremation.
If you want to see what was happening on the road, a person who was moving perhaps from Amritsar towards Lahore, and the people on this side around in Chiata, most of these people with their kirpan, that is their sword, would keep moving around. Now you cannot imagine what he asked. All that he asked, "Tu Sulla hai ke Hindu hai?" He said Sulla. He took out his kirpan, he beheaded him, and took his cycle and walked away. And this is what we were seeing as we are sitting in our own house from the window.
Did it make you question religion?
No, there was nothing about religion.
मैं इसलिए बोल रही हूँ because it seems like a lot of these killings, as you mentioned, were happening in the name of religion.
Of course, most of it from the other side was on the name of religion. But this side, it was only return the gift. Otherwise, there was nothing that they were initiating. Now imagine if a road kafila is going off from Amritsar side to Lahore side. Now they will be either in the carts or in a cycle, or means one of the things. There were very few cars or something like that which was going. Now they could anytime go and attack the area around. And our own OT at that time, the army and police had left petrol bombs on the roof. And on the roof with those petrol bombs, we were trained. We means me and my sister, or of course my mother and father.
Yeah.
That we will throw from outside if people try to attack the house.
Did you ever have to do that?
We didn't have to do, because basically at that time the army was there, and secondly, on the horses' back, people from Gurdwaras and others were moving not on the GT road but on the side of it, because nobody dare come outside. Otherwise, what had happened in 1 or 2 persons that we saw by our own eyes, that will happen. So that way, it was peacefully sent.
But were you basically on house arrest?
No. On the other hand, from the house, I used to go to the railway station. Means like only thing is, during the time of the movement of this kafila, we were not going towards the kafila, because this was guarded with army or guarded with the local people on their horsebacks.
Yeah.
Now, if anyone tries to do, this would be horrible for them.
So, did this motivate you to become a doctor? Seeing this? No?
No. What motivated me was what my father was doing at that time. Of course, minor surgery mostly. Those surgeries was happening, means 70 to 100 per day wounds, means stitching, stopping bleeding, or whatever the other things.
Yeah.
And then means instruction given, go to Amritsar. Because even not only we, the administration there was saying, in sabko Amritsar bhej do.
So you were able to see that up and close.
That is up in close, and means many a places like a person to hold somebody's leg, somebody's arm while it is stitching is going on. I was a hardened person in all this thing.
तो खून से आपको कुछ नहीं होता था.
अब तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं होता था. वो तो बहता खून मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता था. मैंने बहुत देख लिया था.
आपके ख्याल से it sounds like you fortunately were safe in your movement, but you saw a lot of bloodshed and you saw a lot of...
Because the decision was comparatively early.
Yeah.
Second, whatever the decision was, we were not organized decision. अच्छा जाना, आर्मी वाले अभी दे रहे हैं, बस लो, वो क्या उठाओ?
हाँ, so what did you take with you?
क्या उठाओ? वो ओल्ड टाइम एक वो ट्रंक होते थे, एक पीपा होता था या गठरी होती थी. My nanny knew nothing what is happening. Otherwise, her husband was a rich businessman. You can't even imagine his property there. So she only thought of two things: the gold in peepas and few of her clothes, and nothing else.
Wow.
So that is how, not even the papers. She had no idea that you have to take the papers. And she was perhaps not even aware kahan paper hai.
रखे हैं, हाँ.
So the idea is we never came with any documentation.
Wow. Could there have been something done differently during the time of partition in two states to make it more peaceful?
It was a chaos. Nobody knew what to do and what not to do. The reason was everyone was thinking they know better. And this is not surprising.
Yeah.
First of all, you talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And some means news used to come from radio, otherwise there was no other communication. A giving A opinion, B giving B opinion, C giving C opinion. No one knew when the date of partition is supposed to be. And nobody knew whether X is going to India or Pakistan. Now there were 2 or 3 big conflicts, and one was Hyderabad, second was Kashmir, and third was Goa, Diu, Daman.
Yeah.
Now what happened, as far as on the Indian side it was concerned, our then Home Minister, Vallabhbhai Patel, he was the Home Minister.
Okay.
He put his foot down, stopped everything in a jiffy. One warning, either you accept or we attack. This was done, everything was stopped.
You can still show me. But इसके बारे में थोड़ा बताओ.
This is further on after coming back from Kuwait.
Yes.
Finally, when we landed up, I decided that no more active practice, but I will do seva. So as a result, as of 2006, we started a clinic with all facilities for everyone except surgeries, and that was seva to anyone who comes. But this seva was with a fee if a person can pay.
Yeah.
The fee was 50 rupees per person. No extra charges.
I mean,
if they cannot pay, no, we will not charge.
See, Nanu, your life has been very interesting, right? We've talked about your partition story, but you also have a very interesting love story. You also have a very interesting, you lived through the Kuwait-Iraq war, had to be airlifted out. You've lived through many wars. So I feel like...
Three such things that has happened in my own life where I have overcome. And that too, God has helped me to still remain sane.
And to remain Subhash, very sweet and happy. No, I feel like we'll need to do a part 2 and part 3 jahan pe we deep dive into these other aspects and areas of your life, because unki to kahaniyan I've only heard in small parts.
See, at my age of 86 now, which is called that a person is retired.
Re-retired.
Now, such a retired person can only have stories.
Yeah.
But those stories can go on and many things will be there. But fortunately, I still have some memories.
You have wonderful memories.
Now, the other way around, those stories cannot complete a person's life or occupation because ever since COVID, I had to stop the practice for the patients, though it was the seva that we were doing.
So, ठीक है, I guess we will continue these stories another time, but just to put a last word on the stories you've shared today, what was your biggest learning seeing this as a child and living through that?
डरना नहीं, because various situations in my life, individually when I went to, let's say, Europe or Arab land also,
Yeah.
I was never afraid. ऊपर वाला है ना, वो हमारे साथ है. अब कोई ना कोई चीज तो बना लेंगे. Second, वो बनती गई. And that's why till this date, neither worried कि इतना मेरा प्रॉपर्टी गई या इतने मेरे वो चले गए. वो मेरी थी नहीं. जो मेरे पास नहीं वो मेरी थी नहीं. मेरे लिए वो चीज मेरी है जो मेरे खीसे में है. दैट मीन्स जो मेरे पॉकेट में है वो मेरा, बाकी मेरा नहीं. डन.
Very apt learning.
Hare Hare